let's make this organic and fresh.
Yes, hello. Hi.
Oh my God. We've
Hello.
just met Hannah and Suruthi for the first time.
Hi, you guys.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us. Total pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you also for being a bright spot of
Oh my God.
joy and laughter and feminist rage. At a time, I spend so much time in my car just trying not to cry uncontrollably. It's really fun to have you guys with me
Oh,
and be like, oh, they're as mad about dumb shit as I am. So
That's why we're here. That's the background of our show. Crying in your car? Turn us on.
yeah. By the way, if you don't have that on merch,
It's a great ad. Yeah.
my suggestion: crying in your car. Turn us on. Okay, let's introduce you guys so that people understand what is going on, because this is not generally
or
what
genuinely.
our episodes look like.
Yes. No, it's not.
I'm not genuine.
You want me to read it, Sarah? We wrote a little script.
We wrote an intro.
All right, I'm going to do it.
Because we're profesh.
In the grand tradition of Prison Break mid-season finales and breaks, welcome to our mid-season episode, which is not a rewatch of the show, nor a discussion about the show. It is instead a digression to talk to some experts about how realistic this whole Prison Break plot is and why it does or doesn't matter.
And when we say experts, we mean the hosts of the massive true crime podcast, Redhanded, Hannah and Suruthi, or Suruthi and Hannah, depending on how you... We had a whole Sarah and Paul or Paul and Sarah thing. It's fine. And if you say podcast hosts aren't experts, not only do we say piffle to that, but they have written a book, toured the world with their podcast,
Wow.
and made us laugh our asses off when we listen to them. And that isn't expert enough for us. Plus, I did some creeping. Suruthi has a master's in economics. And Hannah has a degree in social anthropology, all of which sounds very fancy and like they know what they're talking about.
And
that is
it's
one more
basically,
degree.
those are degrees in podcasting these days, I think. That's what you need. That's your
Yeah, okay,
study.
Also, Paul, neither you or I have degrees in economics, so
No.
I'm impressed.
We don't.
they're all a complete ruse to make us sound like we know what we're talking about.
That's, well, it works.
There's very little idea about it. Just lots of debt.
I would like to add to this that Redhanded won the Listener's Choice in the British Podcast Awards 3 years in a row. Was included in Amazon Music's Best Podcast of the Year in 2022. And in the, I didn't write this script, Sarah did, but I will just say this. In the bowels of the pandemic. Okay.
Was the pandemic not or shitty?
Yes, it was shitty. It was shitty. Managed to become Britain's top true crime podcast in 2020, and we just really wanted to chat with them. We're honored to have them here. So, Hannah and Suruthi, welcome.
We're honoured to be here. I don't think anyone's even bothered to write us an intro before.
I know. I'm like, I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a whole moment over here. This is the most. Even when we won those awards, nobody said these nice things about us.
Really?
So
Oh,
thank you
super.
very much.
It's
We
super
interview
impressive.
actors, and actors need a bit of runway of here's why you're awesome.
Oh my God. Well, we
Our-
are British and we're sat here like, oh, this is so
Right, we're not.
good. All these people are saying some real nice things about us and also
Yes.
making us sound like experts, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed your adorable, we say piffle to that, but we are also like, please don't set us up like that, because us pretending not to be experts in everything is how we get by. We just be like, we're not experts. I don't
Well,
know. We're just
we'll
saying
say
some
this.
things."
Just
When
saying
we
some
say
things.
experts, we're talking because we do a podcast about a fictional world. So the idea of an expert is it's a murky, right? We had one of our favorite writers on from the show last year, and she said we would get really into the details of how a prison worked. And then there'd be something involving electricity, and we'd be like, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like he can hold his breath for 7 minutes. No one's gonna.
Right.
People don't
Yeah.
care that
They don't care that
much.
much. Yeah.
No.
So true crime as entertainment is new to me.
Mm.
And it's obviously blown up. And there's this interesting intersection between scripted crime, fake crime, and true crime. And the weird thing is, I think, from listening to your podcast, some of the things that people do are so bonkers that if we read it in a script, the network would be like, no, we're not doing this. No one's going to believe it.
I mean, the one I listened to yesterday, what's his name? The South African.
Thabo Besta?
Yeah, Thabo Besta one.
Besta?
You could make a show about that only because it happened. If you just pitched that show as here's a story, people would be like, and then he runs a media empire from his jail cell. Like, no. And the beautiful, successful doctor with the beautiful family who is like his lover. Like, no, we don't buy any of that. So that one is bonkers.
It's bonkers.
Yeah.
I mean, should we back up to how on earth did you end up?
Yeah, that's where I want to
crime
start.
non-experts.
Yeah, how did this? Have you? I'm sure you've told this story a million times, but what is the origin story here?
So I used to live with an American, and in a
Super sorry.
I'm sorry.
Well, he was so awful. He was. I hope he hears this, and because he knows who he is.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was living in a property guardianship, which is like a scheme that they used to have here in London, where you paid less rent to essentially legally squat in an uninhabitable building. So I was doing that, and he was also living there, and he invited his entire extended family to stay in this very tiny, very dangerous flat. And there were children and all sorts. And it was over Thanksgiving. And he was like, oh, well, we should do like a Thanksgiving meal. And I was like, oh, sure. Like, I want nothing more than to cook for these Italians on airbeds. Like, I can't even get into my own room. Anyway, so, vegan as well. Vegan Thanksgiving, not normal. Yeah, exactly.
Strike two.
I can't
pathological people pleaser agreed that I would cook it. And then there was a guy who was staying with us at the time, and he was like, oh, can my friend come? And I was like, well, what's one more fucking person? Like, whatever, like, I'm already up to my fucking tip with this, like, and
we'll just carve the tofurkey thinner.
And it was Suruthi, and she'd just come back from traveling.
Oh.
And I'd been living abroad, and we'd both discovered podcasts at a similar time. And back then, 2016, 17, no one was listening to podcasts. So even to listen to someone talk who knew what one was quite something.
Mm-hmm.
And then we figured out that we were listening to the same ones that were true crime ones. And then we just got hammered, and we're like, that's that one. And then we did. And now it's now.
We were both talking about the JonBenet Ramsey case, which is obviously up there for a lot of people in terms of like top-notch fascination of a case.
Yeah.
And Hannah's right. There was lots of kids running around, probably the age of JonBenet Ramsey. We were talking about how the small child had been murdered in her house and who had done it. And we got very, very drunk, and we were like, let's start a podcast. And I was like, I don't know who we thought we were, but we actually did it. And we did it with like just a random £10 microphone. And fast forward now, definitely not an overnight success. Fast forward now 8-9 years later, and that cut back to that intro you guys read, which was very nice.
It's so impressive.
So, but I mean, you do an insane amount of research for this, which I think we have a lot of respect for, because all we do is rewatch a show we were already on and have forgotten.
Yeah.
And then talk to our friends who've also forgotten doing it.
And yet still have to read the Wikipedia recap. Be like, oh, wait, what? Hey, Suruthi, can you move that way a little bit? Can you move in a little bit, in frame a little bit? We want to see you.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, thank you.
More of you. But I mean, so much was written about the JonBenet case.
Yeah.
Like that's an enormous amount of work, it seems, no?
We didn't even tackle it for years. We didn't cover it. It might have been the first case that Hannah and I ever discussed. Like,
but it wasn't your first.
Oh no. No.
Okay.
There was a lot of cases, like when we first started doing it, it was so like, we were just so not convinced that it was ever going to go anywhere. Like, we started the show, and I remember we were sat in Hannah's kitchen in her property guardianship being like, should we sign up for this podcast platform that we have to pay for to release this piece of content that we think somebody's going to want to listen to? And it was like, do you want to sign up for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? And obviously you get a price break with every brand. And we're like, let's just do 1 month. And we're like, no, I'm like, this, don't even know this guy. Like, we're not going to carry on doing this. And then it just kind of, something good kept happening every month. And then even then, though, we had this imposter syndrome of like, we can't cover a big case like that. We will expose ourselves. So we started off with like smaller cases, less maybe on the radar cases. And then it was when we got built up that confidence. And I don't remember what episode JonBenet Ramsey was, but it was not that long ago.
Hannah, I saw this in your bio. is that for folks who don't read great because of learning disabilities or learning differences, this is an amazing entree into storytelling. And that's something that I've found, in my family. Like, I've got family who some of them aren't readers because what it takes for them to read through, their neurodivergence is just too much. But podcasting has opened up access to storytelling in ways that's really thrilling and really like kind of stimulated their creativity. So I don't know. I thought it was kind of beautiful to see that in your bio, that you found a way to land in the storytelling space and help redefine it as outside of just print.
That's a really nice thing to say. Thank you. Yeah, no, I don't read so good. But it, like reading out loud at school used to terrify me. Like I used to ask, not like, don't pick me. And now I do it all the time, every day. And make fat stacks. So like it's just like, it has been quite a nice full circle thing for me. But no, I don't read in my spare time at all. Because of my brain being broken, but also because I have to do so much of it at work that if I ever had a inch of enjoyment from it, it's been sucked right out of me. But that's okay.
Good to hear that podcasting has broken you. Feels about right. Okay, so next level, do you guys have a top line take on like why people are obsessed with true crime? Why it's such a massive genre?
We get asked this quite a lot, and
I bet, and I'm sorry to be repetitive.
No, I was going to say, but
I'm
always
curious
still
and
interesting
stupid
to talk about. And I think it comes back to what you guys were mentioning sort of immediately after the intro, where you were like, is this a new phenomena or has this always kind of been around? And our point is it kind of has always been around, but it's also a phenomena. So what I would say is, like, when we wrote the book, for example, we make a real big point of it in there, is that true crime isn't really having a moment. It's like podcasting around true crime that is having a big moment. And yes, TV, because obviously there's this big explosion of true crime documentaries. I mean, Netflix, you only need to go on there and probably half of the top 10 is going to be some form of true crime or fake crime. Drama, something like that. We are obsessed. But, the Victorians were obsessed. They were printing penny dreadfuls and they were obsessed with Jack the Ripper. And so it isn't, and also I have family in other countries. And when I go there, the TV they're consuming, the news they're consuming is all just as grisly and just as hardcore and just as crimey. So I think it is sort of a universal human interest around true crime. And I think it is because it encompasses so many things, right? But I think ultimately what it comes down to, and this is what we kind of land on it, is that it is this kind of obsession with the extremes of human behavior. I think ultimately that's what it's about. And I think it reflects in other entertainment as well. I mean, if you watch, I always use this as an example and maybe other people don't relate to it, but watching shows like Botched or My 300-Pound Life or whatever it might be, or Married at First Sight or 90 Day Fiance. I'm just giving away all of the things I watch, but you know what I mean. It's all of these things that are just so extreme human behaviors or such extreme human like ideas. And I think that's ultimately what it is that we're obsessed with. And when it comes to crime, what can really be more extreme than murder or some of the horrific things that we talk about on Redhanded? And so I think really that's all it is that people are really fascinated with. Another theory that we do have, and can't really claim it to be ours, but it's this idea of like fear being such a hardwired biological driver in humans. I mean, fear is probably one of the most important emotions or biological reactions that a human being can have, because it's what enabled us to survive for billions of years. And so in the modern world, especially if you live like comfortable lives like we do, you're not really engaging in fear on a daily basis. So maybe it is a comfortable way.
Have you heard the American news lately? Just asking.
Well,
a comfortable way in which you can engage in extreme levels of fear and then still close the book or shut the laptop or take your headphones out and then go back to your normal life. Like it's almost like role playing extreme fear because it feeds into something in us biologically.
I say this with deference, and please chop me down if I'm wrong, but I've had a few different women say, well, women love true crime podcasts and stories because that's what we live with every single day. And it's a way to, like you're saying, like safely engage with it at a remove and understand it, or at least experience it without experiencing it. Yeah, externalize it. Like that there's a communal...
That gets bounced around quite a lot.
It does.
And I think over time, I've become less convinced by it because, yes, like you will see the argument that women are arming themselves with information by consuming true crime. So like if they get followed by a white van, like it won't be them. You know what I mean? Like but I don't think so, because I think what is so interesting about true crime, I mean, it's shifting, but it's still predominantly consumed by women. But the obsession, I feel like society feels like it has to explain why women like the macabre and why women are into the morbid, but like men have been obsessed with genocide and war for years, and no one says dick about that.
That's
like
true.
that, like men are just allowed to be completely obsessed.
That's true.
With whatever war they choose, and no one cares. No one thinks that's
right.
weird or needs explaining.
And people will often give us backlash, and it's very rare and few and far between, thankfully. But this idea of like true crime as entertainment is somehow inherently wrong. But it's okay for the news to report on it because it's just the facts. But you storytelling it is somehow perverse. And my argument to that is if you just watch it on the news and you're like, 10 sex workers got murdered, most people will be like, yeah, that's sad and that's horrible. But to listen to a storytelling podcast where you understand about those people's lives and you understand what led them to make the choices they made and what led them to end up in the scenario that they were in, and why they made certain choices that they made, for example, if it's a cult or whatever, it gives you a deeper feeling of empathy for it, which I think is really important. That removes that, well, it would never happen to me and those people must just be stupid or terrible or whatever. And that's my defense of true crime storytelling.
I mean, I thought it was really brilliant that you guys started the Tavo Besta story with the story of his mother and how she was abducted, raped. He was the product of that rape. She had a horrible life, abandoned him. Like, I mean, just that tiny piece of information, it didn't necessarily make you think like, oh, this poor guy, anything he does is okay. But it gave you a much larger perspective on his psychology, or even more so what his life was probably like.
Totally. And with that, I think that's an important thing to do, because no one goes around murdering people for no reason.
Right.
However, I think it's far more interesting to look at, like, okay, like these are the series of things that have to happen to a human person to make them capable of these absolutely abhorrent acts that either listener can't even imagine thinking about. I think that's much more interesting.
So Suruthi, you were saying, oh, I haven't watched Prison. I was at one point, you were obsessed with Prison Break. Was that in
Obsessed.
When was that? I imagine at your age, it wasn't in the original
It wasn't
iteration.
the original. I think if it wasn't in the original, it was very soon after. So I'm 35, and I believe that Prison Break, is it 20 years ago?
Yeah, 20 years ago. Yeah, you would have been 14, 15. Yeah.
So I don't think I watched it when I was 14, 15. I think I watched it with my mum, because that's who I do all of my like TV show binge watching with.
Yep.
I believe I did it the summer before I went to university. So I think I was like 3 years. I think when season 4 was coming out, it was getting all the hype. And
you were catching up.
I think I started watching season 1 then and like caught up, because I also enjoy when like the season's already out and I can just binge watch it with my mum. So we watched it and we were fucking obsessed. And wait till I tell my mum that we did this and I sent her a screenshot with you to her know she's gonna lose her mind. No, I was obsessed. I was absolutely obsessed. I mean, are we talking like, and you guys gave us a lovely intro, so let me do the same, but only because it's genuine. Like top tier TV. It was so like compelling and just like so good to watch. And I'm gonna rewatch it. All. And just watching the little recap that we watched before we came in to do this, I was like, oh my god, this show is so good.
It's been really fun. One of the things that we've tried to do speaking of context, is we do a little index at the beginning of it about what was happening that, like, here's what it was up against that week. Here's what was going on in the news that week. Here's what was going on in pop culture in that week. And, we also talk
First
a lot.
iPhone came out.
Yeah,
in the
first
middle of
iPhone
season
came out, all
2.
that shit. But we also talk a lot about how different television was.
Yeah.
It was really the last and first of a certain kind of cinematic thing, but also of a kind of you have to watch this the day it comes out kind of thing. Because if you watched it before you went to university, I imagine you were either running out and buying or running out and renting DVD sets.
It would be DVDs, right? Because that's all pre-Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was on Channel
There was no
5
streaming.
here,
Oh.
which
Yeah.
was like the terrestrial
Which
TV.
you can only get
Oh.
on a certain day if it's not raining.
Oh.
Like, you have to go and get the aerial.
Yeah.
Like, but then I think it was re-released on Sky.
I think
Uh-huh.
that's what,
Uh-huh.
because I don't remember getting DVDs. But
Okay, so you would-
don't think we watched it on 5, so it must have been on Sky. But
I
yeah,
think, I think that's what it was.
I think I remember them flying me out to the UK to do press for the Sky
yeah.
thing. And I was like, we're doing press for reruns. They're like,
Well, Channel
Brits don't have a
5
lot to
was
do. It
on the-
rains all winter.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Well, it worked because I think that's when I watched it. Prison Break was like the ideal kind of show because it was like it was just perfect. It was like thriller, and it, we'll talk about this when you guys get into the questions, but it was like such compelling characters of like the perfect, like genius, main character protagonist, and then you've got like the perfect like villain to his like to equally genius character. It was just perfect. It was so compelling. And I have to say, I know it's probably very like, I don't know, is this where most people land? Because you guys obviously have like a good community around this show, but like, who was your favorite character? For me, it was definitely what was his name? Theodore.
Teabag.
oh, Bagwell?
Teabag.
Yeah.
He was I know he's a baddie, but
Yeah, I mean,
he's
but
so good.
so juicy.
I mean, that's
right?
on brand for
Juicy.
a true crime podcast. Do you know what I mean? Like the most depraved, the most. But here's the thing. I don't know that if Prison Break were a true story, we would be juicy enough to make it onto your podcast. This is what's fascinating
Come
to
on.
me.
If he broke his brother and 6 people out of jail by getting himself thrown in jail and had the engine.
He didn't. He wasn't a serial killer. There were no dead bodies floating in
Couple.
rivers. Nobody. Well, yeah, but he didn't put him there.
It would totally, because like I said, we're not that interested in serial killers. We're more interested in these kind of one-off familial, like,
Okay,
he's
fair.
never done anything wrong before, goes to prison, break his brother. Like, we'd be all over it.
Sarah, ask more Prison Break questions.
Okay. Okay. So if you, and I know it's been 20 years, 15 years, whatever, what would change now? By which I mean, we are now in a world, I think, I don't know, this is your world, where there is a like real-time true crime feedback loop where when something happens, the interwebs weigh in as it's happening, as people are looking for suspects. So we're doing the rewatch of season 2 right now. So I'm curious about what you think would change in the show if it was 2025, because the Fox River 8 breakout, highly publicized. They keep cutting in the show to like someone's in a post office and someone looks behind them and they see the wanted poster. But now, this was all literally pre-iPhone.
Just.
Just barely.
But I mean,
yeah.
I feel like I keep saying I feel like the show. One of the reasons the show has life over and over and over again is because it's great and compelling, but also because it exists. There's enough technology that it doesn't feel like it's from the 50s, but it's not iPhone based, so it never feels anachronistic. It's like it has its own world, and you can just like they can look shit up. But like they're having to type, you know, it's perfect. It kind of exists in a perfect little in between space. Anyway,
That's so true.
What are you, Sarah? Are you asking what would the feedback loop of like what would the internet be saying about the Fox River 8 or?
What changes in a
I
story
guess
if we
if you
decide
did
to call
the
it
soft
true crime?
reboot now, and you had to refilm season 2 when they're on the run, like how is that looking different to make it feel like it fits into 2025? And I think you're totally right. I think it is this weird, in real life, true crime obsessed community, if that's the right word that we're giving them. And we talk
Sure.
about this all the time on the show, is like how, like, with this explosion of interest in true crime, naturally comes everybody thinking that, well, I could have done a better job than that. The police are shit, this, that, and the other, and I would have done a better
Right.
job than that. And why didn't they just do this? And it's like, yeah, okay, but also shut up. And I think you see it in cases like, say, Gabby Petito. That was like a really, really stark example of one where people weren't necessarily investigating it, but they were so overly invested in this case, where they were like turning up at like Brian Laundrie, who is the guy who killed her, like his parents' house, and like harassing
Really?
them and picketing outside their house and doing all these weird things. And also the case of Elisa Lam, which was obviously the case that was that big Netflix documentary. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was about
I
that
didn't,
young
I'm sorry.
woman, Elisa Lam, who's found dead in a water tank in LA. And basically people are like, it's like a mystery. How did she get in there? Was she killed? Was it kind of self-inflicted? Did she have some sort of psychotic break? And there's all this like CCTV footage, so people are really fascinated by it. And like all that happened is people were like accusing random people, like this musician, of having killed her. They ruined his life.
Ugh.
And it's just like this vigilante, like thinking they're doing this self-righteous vigilante mob that you have, who, it's never been more true, that phrase of like a little bit of knowledge and how dangerous you
boy,
can be.
no
And
doubt.
it's like that's 100% be happening. I mean, if the season 2 was set now, you would have everybody filming everybody they saw, accusing everybody of being this person in disguise. And
Totally.
it would be Reddit threads to TikTok ones of like, oh my God, guys, you'll never guess who I just saw at the post office. It wasn't just a wanted ad. It was.
Yes. And also
whoever.
let's say there would be a lot of super hot criminals. Like these guys are hot. Like these guys are hot. They're
I mean,
super hot.
Michael and Lincoln.
Michael and
they're
Lincoln,
gonna
forget
have
about it. Yeah. They'd have a lot of fan. They'd have a lot of fan.
despicable TikTok lust pages
Yeah,
after
way
them.
past Luigi Mangione. This would be Luigi on steroids.
Which is, by the way, Luigi on steroids is a little bit dumb. There's something interesting about that, though, that like hot people get away with stuff differently. There's more of a pass, it seems.
Yeah, the Halo
Is that
effect.
something that's just in TV,
Halo
or do you
effect?
guys like?
What's the
That's what
halo
it's
effect?
called. The Halo effect is basically, this theory that it's not just specific to true crime, it's just in general life, but essentially this idea that people who are attractive are associated with in somehow being more good. And so when you see it particularly in true crime, so again, talking of historical things, like we can all think that Ted Bundy is subjectively not very attractive, but he was at the time, and
Right.
people were thirsting after him. And
Sure.
so this idea that he wasn't actually guilty, or it wasn't that bad, or what he had done was, still like lustworthy because people found him attractive. Yeah, it's definitely a thing. And it's particularly interesting, actually, you see this in cases where female teachers in
Oh my God.
particular have sexually abused male students.
Mhm.
The more studies have shown, the more attractive she is, the less time she will serve, if any, in prison, because there's this underlying idea that,
I'd bang her. Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just like super fucked up.
Yeah.
So what you're saying for anybody listening is, if you're going to commit a crime,
Be hot.
Be super hot.
go get a glow up at Sephora.
Get a glow. Go get a glow. Yeah. Go keto.
This is the. That's so disturbing.
Ugh.
Absolutely.
This is a bit different because my character wasn't super crimey on the show.
Oh no.
But the volume.
She was
of-
my favorite, though.
I knew I liked you. Thanks. Appreciate you, Han.
I'm sorry. Not super
volume-
crimey. Can we just? Do you want to go down the list or?
Okay. Season 1,
Okay.
apart from letting 8 men out of prison.
Apart from that.
Okay, fair enough.
And some
Super
medical-
fucking crimey.
And some medical malpractice earlier in the season.
Super crimey. Super crimey. In fact, stole narcotics before the show even started. Fair enough. Okay, so the volume of letters I got from prison
Oh.
was so shocking that my husband actually started a catalog because he's like, I want names of these guys if they ever get out and we see them. It was wild. So this was back, again, this is in the Stone Ages where people would send you a letter in an envelope. And usually it was, as part of my rehabilitation, I've started an autograph collection. Would you send me a blah, 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 blah? There would then be sometimes it was just that, super sweet. And Fox had us printed up 8x10 whatevers, and you'd sign it, Dear Andrew, good luck doing your time. I don't know what the fuck, Sarah, or just sign the thing. You'd mail it off. I wish this were not true. But it sometimes it was slightly more like I feel connected to the way that, and like they developed this sort of parasocial relationship with, first of all, what I learned is they were showing the show in prisons. And I'm like, I don't know, strategically airing Prison Break in prisons.
That is shocking.
Feels wild. But they definitely did that.
Wow.
And what I learned is that there is a subset of people, there's a demographic of people who feel very connected. And this is kind of the reverse of what you're talking about, of women going, you've committed crimes, I want to be with you. But it was really wild. And it would be stamped in the corner, Alabama Corrections, inmate, blah, blah, blah. Wow. And we would sit there on a Sunday, usually once a month, and you'd like go through the stack, and I'd be like, got another one for you. And my husband would be like, all right, so if this guy ever gets out. Yeah, it was totally wild. It was totally wild.
So funny. Because, I was absolutely going to say, I mean, I know it's not the same thing. Like, they're not actually thinking you're a criminal. But, yeah, the other way around for men, like, having that kind of fixation on female criminals is quite rare. I think when we wrote the book, we really tried to find examples of it. And the only one we've really come across is actually with Lucy Letby. I don't know if you guys have kept up with that case that's happened in the UK. That it's a very, very controversial case here. Basically, this young nurse, I think she's about the same age as us, has been convicted of murdering like 7 babies in prison. She was a nurse. But, and this is controversial, we don't think she did it. Anyway, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. And she has been receiving love letters from men in prison. So that's very rare. But no, it's very interesting. It's very interesting.
That's super bonkers. Has your show interacted with other IRL cases? I mean, I'm thinking like, when they did that documentary on Robert Blake and he confessed on a hot mic and like went to prison.
No, we will very rarely cover a show that hasn't already been adjudicated, because in the US it's less strict, but in the UK, if we say anything that is even there's very specific legal language, but we can be in contempt of court.
And libel laws too, I would imagine, in England are so strict.
It's
on that kind of thing.
Tricky, but no, do you know what? Like, we're not even investigative journalists, let alone like actual investigators. Like, who gives a fuck what we think? Like, why? Like, no one's gonna like.
Loads of people, by the way, is the answer.
No, we always say we're a storytelling podcast. We're storytellers, and Hannah's completely right. When the Lucy Letby case went on, because if it was anything we would be involved in, it would probably be British. But literally, we wrote the case. We waited, and then she was sentenced. And then the day she was sentenced, we released the episode the next day. Because anything before that, we're just going to get cease and desist letters or get called up in front of a court in contempt of court, and it's just not worth it.
Right.
Which is why we love doing US cases, because we can say whatever the fuck we want.
Care.
Like, hey. But no, we've never really been reached out to, but we're okay with that, because we're kind of happy with where we are, because again, it comes back to that thing of like the vigilante mob, right? I'm not saying we sit in that, but I think this idea of like inserting ourselves into an in real life as it's unfolding case feels really unethical and weird, and not where our skill set is. And we just want somebody else to solve it, and we will tell the story in a nice, interesting way.
Do you think, I mean, like I said, I was listening to the De Vedrien, however you say that, episode.
I think that was right.
Yeah.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah. Viva
I still don't know.
By the way, listening to you guys in the French is just part of the fun. It's fantastic.
It's because our producer who edits it is French, so it's fun to follow.
Oh, poor guy. What it made me wonder, given how just bonkers the whole thing was, is do you think that the profusion of true crime podcasts like yours has changed the bar on what audiences consider a bridge too far? Like, it made me wonder if they wrote Prison Break now, with all the shows like yours out there, would it be considered sort of too tame? Would it,
Not necessarily. I think I was really thinking about this morning, and like the question of like, because we often say on the show, when something happens that seems just too outlandish, or even like too like someone wrote it, but it's true, it happened. Like Saru will often say, like, if someone wrote that in a TV show, I wouldn't believe it. I'd be like, oh, yeah, whatever. But like, it does happen. And I was really thinking about, why do we expect reality from fiction? And it definitely happens. And I think it's because the world is difficult to understand, and we know more about what's going on and how fucked it is than we ever have before. We now, more than ever, I think, want our fiction to make sense, because nothing else does.
Right. Well, right. Which then brings us to the, like, what about fake true crime? Right? I mean, because there was that guy, I just read about it recently. He had some YouTube channel. What was it called? I wrote it down here.
True Crime Podcast or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was revealed that he was just AI generating
It's interesting.
stuff.
It's so lazy. There's so many crimes.
This is like, that was my main gripe with the whole situation. I'm just like,
Right.
why? Because
So
there's
many
like
crimes.
so much crime out there that you don't have to be making it up to find compelling stories. And I actually think, to come off the back of what Hannah was saying, is like, yes, like fictitious crime, like crime dramas, things like that. It is hard to think of enough things, because actually, like, some of the stuff that's happened in real life is just so bad you couldn't even make it up. I mean, can you take, for example, like another Ryan Murphy creation, the first one, Monster, with Jeffrey Dahmer? If somebody just wrote that, you'd be like, what the fuck? Like, he was eating people, making sandwiches, putting their penises in the fridge. Like, you'd just be like, this person's gone nuts, and it makes
No
no
chance.
sense.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's just so unbelievable.
I
But I
also-
think, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know why he felt the need to make those up. I guess it's just laziness, because it was easier than
I just
having to
think
research the cases.
It was
that
just
are out
super
there.
trolling, I think.
Yeah, or it's just
I
super
really
trolling.
Super. Oh, you think it's
You
super
think it was
trolling?
like a
Yeah.
Like a way of
yeah.
dragging-
He's so fucking pleased with himself.
Yeah,
Like,
even
Uh-huh.
the name True Crime Case Files, it sounds like it is. It sounds like what he claimed it was, which was this absurdist art form, right? I can get it. I think especially this
a satire.
explosion of like true crime podcast interest leaves it open to kind of jabs left, right, and center. And we're also totally seeing that with like new TV dramas that are being made now, where it's like they have a true crime podcaster, and they're either this vessel of like virtuous investigative journalism, or they're a total charlatan.
They're a total
who's just
scumbag. Yeah.
Right.
There's one
Yeah.
set in Ireland
We're in
right
Bodkin.
now. There's one
Yeah,
set in
Bodkin.
Bodkin. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's funny. Like, I don't care. But I think I prefer the ones where they're making fun of the true crime podcaster, rather than the ones where they're treating this podcaster with like loads and loads of reverence. Because I think probably the place that's evolved from is this kind of mistrust in establishment and a mistrust in the police, and then introducing a fictional podcaster into the mix gives this idea of like, well, this person can be trusted.
Well,
and I'm like, no,
yeah, it's a trope, right? I mean, amateur sleuth goes all the way back to Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, and even earlier, right? That there's a kind of an innocent view of the thing.
Yeah.
So part of what my takeaway is, and then we'll wrap this up. I know this is going super long, and you guys need to eat dinner. But part of my takeaway is we allow a level of absurdity in true crime because it happened, and we have totally different rules for scripted shows. I mean, if somebody made, I hate to keep coming back to this Devedran thing, but I was literally, my jaw was just on the floor. if somebody submitted that as a script, 100%.
Well,
just like,
also, you know,
you
Hollywood.
can't write. This is preposterous.
You couldn't make the thing you were saying
You
is
know?
like you couldn't make Dahmer unless it had really happened. But because it really happened, people will tune in to watch it. I mean,
Right.
it gives you a certain what a writer friend of mine calls the house of buys, which is like, really? Like, hey, it happened.
Yeah.
It happened. It happened. Okay, and it's like there's I don't know. As somebody who also writes, it kind of pisses me off. I kind of get it. Like you want to be able to write the craziest shit possible, but also.
But Imposters was so much tamer than any one of the episodes that they cover. You know what I mean? Paul created a show called Imposters about a con woman, and like it would have been amazing if you could have taken swings like this. It would have made for phenomenal TV, and you would have been panned. And that's
Right, that's true. That's true.
That's kind of wild to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Variety would have been like, Paul Adelstein's lost his goddamn mind.
I also think that there's
He's tripping acid.
I think
Stop.
There's a difference between. I think a lot of shows that are based on things that are real are simply spectacle, and there's nothing insightful about them. Dahmer was insightful about its treatment of gay culture, about race, where it played with the police and all those things. Like Imposters, we tried to make it. I mean, it was pretty light fare, but we tried to make it about a larger idea, about shifting identity, about is love a little bit of a con, and all these things. I think sometimes when you're basing something on this wild shit that happened, you just need to present wild shit. Like there's nothing else really going on there other than look how fucked up humans are, which is, most drama's about anyway. But I think that like you don't have to always be going for the most shocking thing if you have characters that are, I don't know, I'm going to stop talking.
No, but it's true. I get what you're saying. But like, people are going to be fucked off whatever you do. So just have a nice time.
Exactly.
I mean,
and I completely agree with this idea of like what Hannah was saying is that with the fake crime dramas, it has to make more sense. So you are constrained by the parameters of a story that concludes in a way that is satisfactory to the audience. Because earlier this morning we were recording for our Patreon content, like an update on what's going on with the Idaho student murders case, which was like obviously a huge story, like unbelievable. And again, if that was like, maybe it could pass as like an episode of Criminal Minds, but to make a whole series on that, you'd be like, this is nuts. There's no way. And two of the girls survived and they were in the basement and they saw a guy, like it'd just be bonkers.
Right.
People have lots of questions about that, especially since the 911 call came out, and people are like, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they call earlier? And we're just like, because true crime and real life is really messy.
Really fucking messy.
A little like bow tie you can tie to the end of everything. But when you guys are writing like fake crime dramas, there has to be a satisfactory answer to why they didn't call the police until 10:30.
And also,
it can't just be
like,
because that's what people do.
We tell stories to live, right? Like you were saying, Suruthi, like we tell ourselves these stories to try to make some sense, even if it only makes sense to us about how those people did what they did. There's got to be some kind of catharsis. I mean, it's a huge part of writing, and real life doesn't have that. I always talk about this. We can cut this too. That in terms of like how we view celebrities or how we view success, that we have this true Hollywood story version of people's lives now, that they follow a narrative arc. I did this and then I hit rock bottom and then we da-da-da-da and here I am at the Oscars. And it's like, that's not how that's only in retrospect.
Yeah, everyone's story makes sense in reverse.
In reverse, that's right.
Anything you guys want to say about anything
about us
before we
we
have a wrap-up question?
We have two fun wrap-up questions.
Okay.
I actually have three. I've got another one.
All right.
But is there anything you guys want to say first? Anything,
I am 100%.
We hate you guys. This is a waste of time.
Rewatch Prison Break. That is for sure happening. And my partner's never watched it, and I was like telling him I was obviously going to be on do the show with you guys today, and I was like, oh my God, we're rewatching it. We're not rewatching it for him, watching it for the first time.
Yeah.
We're going to watch the whole thing. I'm so excited. And the little recap we watched today has made me pumped. Bring on more Teabag.
Nope, you don't.
Nope.
It's great. I'm totally here for it. Say it to everyone you know, then tell me what happens.
One of the fun things about rewatching it is I remember a lot of the huge turns, But boy, each episode has like
I know.
10
I
micro turns in it that are incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it was
it's
like
very
being
satisfying.
punched in the face watching a 20-minute recap of season 1. We were like, this is season 1, not all of the seasons. Yeah.
No.
So that's excellent work. Excellent work, guys.
And I would like to thank you and the entire Prison Break team for teaching me pendejo as a word.
Oh, great.
Never left me.
I think you can probably just leave that one with Sucre. That was that was all a Maori all the time. I'm never even sure.
If they wrote it in.
Yeah, like there were times where
really?
he'd just say stuff,
Oh, that's
and there
cool.
weren't a lot of Spanish speakers around.
Right.
I'll be perfectly honest. There are times where I was like,
I don't think you
"Is
could.
that something you can say on TV?"
I don't think
He's
you
like,
could say it on
"Nobody
TV
stop
now.
Probably
I don't think
not.
you could say it on TV now. No way.
Probably not.
Amazing.
Leveraging the stupidity of single language speaking Americans,
Yeah.
Maori got a whole bunch of cool shit in there. Okay.
Not to mention executives. I mean, the teabag thing as an example. We were constantly asking the writers, like, how did you? And they're like, nobody ever said anything.
Love it.
Because in theory, nobody knew.
Nobody knew. And then
Nobody knew.
some young staffer knew and was like, I'm not telling them.
Are you going to be the one? I'm not going to be
I'm
the
not
one.
telling them.
Okay, so wrap up questions. We'll start with you, Suruthi. If you were on death row, what's your last meal? Because we shot in a real death row and it was creepy. What would you eat?
I feel like, so assuming I have an appetite because I'm about to be murdered by the state, then I think it changes all the time. I think before I've definitely said it would be like my mum's cooking and like, get her out there to cook me something. But right now I'm having a real MSG moment and it would probably be a Chinese hot pot.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I'd
Nice.
not, but, at least you got to give me 2 hours. You got to give me 2 hours with that hot pot. And that's what I need. That's
It's
what
the
I need.
night before. You're not being executed by the state for like a
Oh, is that
solid
right?
15
Oh, I
hours.
never
Now,
thought of
I
that.
need-
Right.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
also because of my I'm being triggered by my hot pot experience because my favorite place I go to have hot pot in London, they only give you 90 minutes and I'm just like, why are you trying to throw me out? 90 minutes is not enough. There's still so much
That's
hot pot left.
Terrible.
So yes, at least 2 hours, and it's got to be
Especially since it shows up.
really hot and spicy, like where your mouth is numb.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's my
Okay.
that's my
I
death
love
row
that answer.
meal right now.
Okay. So Hannah, if you were on the run, we're on our season 2 question now. Where would you go to hide out from the law for the rest of your life? Where would you go and who would you bring with you?
Absolutely fucking nobody, because trust no bitch. That's why you can't take
I like
anyone
you
with you.
so much.
No,
where-
absolutely no. Solo. I think a lot of people make the mistake of going very rural, because people who live there, they all know each other. Why are you there? So it would have to be an urban setting where I don't stand out looks wise, but I'm always going to fall at a language hurdle. I think
Glasgow.
You could be mute.
I could be. I think
And
Finland,
deaf.
somewhere in Finland.
Yeah.
Ah,
So in case anyone
Oh.
tries to sign.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say
yeah.
like enjoy St.
Somewhere I have
Petersburg.
absolutely no connection to as well.
Yes.
It has to be that. Yeah.
A deaf blind mute
Right.
in Finland.
Yes, quite.
I'm here.
That'll blend right in.
It's dark half the year. They won't know.
That's true. They're all seasonally depressed for 6 months, an entire year. Okay, and this is not a question we usually ask people, but I'm curious from you guys, from each of you, what crime did you commit to get yourself locked in a federal penitentiary?
I Luigi'd someone.
You what?
I Luigi'd someone.
Luigi somebody.
Copy that? Copy that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If my younger days are anything to go by, it's some form of arson, probably.
Wow.
I would say cult, but then people management is just a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, just set fire to something because
You think-
that is really fun.
You think the cult thing, like, and do you think it doesn't start as a death cult, and then the cult leader is just like, you know what? Fuck all you people.
I have no time for this.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, I want out of this shit.
Yeah, I'm
And
shutting
you
it
can't,
down.
like- and you can't, but you can't just shut it down and be like, soz guys, I was lying about everything. You can go home now. You got to kill them all. You got to
You've
get rid
gotta
of them,
Kool-Aid it.
burn it to the ground.
Yeah, burn it
So
to
I
the
would
ground.
totally, on an ambitious day, I'd say cult leader. On an unambitious day, I'd say some sort of arsonist.
You could combine
Maybe
them.
it's both.
You can combine those.
Maybe you
Double
started a
trouble.
cult and ended up. Don't forget, you're in a federal penitentiary. You can commit all the crimes.
Yeah, that's right.
It's amazing.
That's fun.
You guys, thank you.
Thank you,
This
guys.
has been
It's
really
amazing.
fun. And
Oh, thank you so much.
we really, really enjoy what you guys are up to.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
Having listened
I
to
look
2 of the
forward
episodes
to,
now, I can't wait to start from the beginning and listen to 6 years worth. I'm into
Oh,
it.
thank you. Don't go all the way
Yeah,
back.
yeah. Forgive the early sound quality. We didn't know what we were doing.
We're still fighting our sound quality battles, so I have no judgment on that.
They
front.
were
It's a
drunk in a
never-ending
council flat. It's great. And we look forward to seeing you on the set of the Amazon adaptation of the De Vedrian,
Yeah.
which I really, truly want to see. I just think it's so, first of all, the costumes, the location. It's like if Downton Abbey were French
Yes.
and fucked.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's exactly it.
That's
Wow.
the pitch.
You pitch it. You can have it.
You pitch it.
I
We'll
mean-
come do an interview.
Don't tempt her; she'll do it.
It's going to be
Do
so
it. Do
much
it.
fun. We're going to call Canal Plus. Do we have an idea for you?
Do it. And so thank you guys so much for having us on. This
It was
was
a pleasure.
such fun. We rarely do these kind of
Wonderful.
guested ones, and we had a really great time. And if you're ever in London, come say hi to us. We'll
Yeah,
take you for a
totally.
Chinese hot pot and set fire to something. It'll be great.
Fantastic.
I'm holding you entirely to
God,
that.
yes.
Half my family lives
Anytime.
in the UK.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Anytime.
Just give us a
Um,
call.
Brilliant. Thank you guys.
guys.
Thank you guys
Thank
so
you.
much.